Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be looking at the relationship between social structures, political power, and economic systems
Okay.
throughout history. And our guide for this exploration is Oswald-Spengler,
Right.
and specifically an excerpt from his book, The Decline of the West.
Yeah. Spengler's work offers a really compelling look at the rise and fall of civilizations, particularly focusing on the distinct characteristics of Western civilization.
So our goal today is to try to uncover how these forces, the social structures, political power, and economic systems, have shaped societies across different historical periods.
Right.
And to begin, Spengler introduces this concept of the duality of existence.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that idea a little bit?
Spengler, he posits that there are two fundamental forces that are constantly at play in all life, the cosmic and the microcosmic.
Okay.
The cosmic represents the realm of pure being, driven by instinct and biological necessity. So imagine like a plant growing and
Right.
existing without conscious thought or reflection.
That's a prime example of this cosmic force.
So the cosmic is about existing.
Yeah.
What does the microcosmic represent then?
The microcosmic introduces waking being, the realm of consciousness and rational thought.
Okay.
So unlike plants, animals demonstrate this shift. They can perceive and react to their environment, adding a layer of complexity to their existence.
That's an interesting distinction between just being and this idea of waking being. It seems crucial to understanding how societies even form.
Exactly. So then Spengler goes on to introduce the concept of estates.
Okay.
These are organically formed groups within a society. And he argues that these estates are shaped by training, inherited qualities, rather than shaping, which implies learned knowledge.
Okay. So could you give some examples of these states?
Certainly, Spengler identifies two primary estates, nobility and priesthood. The nobility embodies blood, action, and destiny. The warriors and leaders driven by lineage and tradition.
The priesthood, on the other hand, represents intellect, contemplation,
Right.
and the search for meaning.
Got it.
They are the keepers of knowledge, interpreting the mysteries of the world.
So it seems like there's a natural tension then between these two estates.
Indeed, each vies for dominance in shaping the direction of a civilization, a struggle that plays out throughout history.
Now, shifting gears slightly, Spengler also emphasizes the transformative impact of cities. How does this urban development factor into his analysis?
Well, the transition from rural to urban life brought about a significant shift, particularly in economic systems. Cities facilitated a move away from bartering
Okay.
towards systems based on money. This transition fundamentally changed how people thought about value.
So it seems that money then played a really crucial role in shaping these early societies.
Absolutely. Spengler highlights how thinking in terms of money, an abstract concept, replaced thinking in terms of tangible goods. This shift encouraged a more abstract and calculating mindset,
Okay.
one that had profound consequences.
To understand this further, let's delve into Spengler's analysis of the classical world. He specifically focuses on the rise and fall of the polis, the city-state. What insights does he offer?
Well, he examines the emergence of democracy as a force challenging the power of aristocratic elites in these city-states. He also highlights the critical role of money in Roman expansion, which ultimately led to the transformation of the Republic into an empire.
So money was, it seems, a double-edged sword, driving both progress and potential decline.
Right.
But Spengler doesn't stop with just money. He characterizes Western civilization as, quote-unquote, Faustian. What does he mean by that?
The Faustian soul, as Spengler describes it, possesses an insatiable desire for knowledge, power, and conquering the infinite. This stands in stark contrast to the classical world's focus on the present and a cyclical view of time.
So the Faustian drive is about constantly striving, pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
and seeking what lies beyond. How does this manifest in Western civilization?
Well, this drive manifests in the Western obsession with work in progress. The inventor and the engineer hold unique and prominent roles in our civilization, constantly seeking to innovate and expand our understanding. For example, consider the emergence of double-entry bookkeeping.
Double-entry bookkeeping. That seems like a rather specific example.
It might seem mundane, but this accounting practice reflects a deeper cultural impulse. The emphasis on abstract representation and precise calculation in double-entry bookkeeping embodies the Faustian desire to quantify and control even the most complex aspects of reality. It's not just about keeping track of money, it's about imposing order and rationality on the world around us.
So this seemingly simple practice reveals a deeper desire for control and understanding within Western civilization.
Right.
And where does Spengler believe this Faustian drive will lead?
Well, he suggests that Western civilization, like all others, might face an eventual decline, a natural consequence of exhausting its creative impulse.
Does this mean complete collapse, or does he see a different kind of transformation?
Well, Spengler believes this decline doesn't necessarily signify collapse, but rather a transformation into a new form.
Okay.
He proposes the possibility of a second religiousness characterized by a return to spiritual values.
A return to spirituality in our increasingly secular society. That's a fascinating concept, but to truly grasp the implications of these ideas, we need to look at specific historical examples. Shall we begin with Spengler's analysis of the classical world?
Absolutely. The classical world offers a compelling case study to understand how social structures, political power, and economic forces interact to shape a civilization's destiny. Spengler argues that the classical world, with its focus on the tangible and the present, developed a unique concept of money. Unlike the Faustian view of money as an abstract force, the classical world saw money primarily as a means of direct exchange, tied to concrete goods.
So their coins weren't seen as representations of some abstract value, but rather as actual pieces of valuable metal.
Precisely. This perspective significantly impacted their economic and political development. For instance, the Romans' reliance on tangible money, especially gold and silver, heavily influenced their expansionist policies. They sought to acquire more land and resources, which, in their view, directly translated to increased wealth.
This brings to mind the role of slavery in Roman society. Was their view of money connected to their use of slave labor?
An astute observation. Spengler notes that the Romans' focus on concrete wealth contributed to their perception of slaves as a form of money. Slaves represented a tangible asset that could be bought, sold, and utilized for profit.
That's a stark contrast to how we view human labor today.
Indeed. This highlights the profound difference between the classical and Faustian worldviews. Now, the classical world, grounded in the present and the tangible, developed a political system centered on the polis, the city-state.
And as we discussed earlier, the polis eventually gave way to the Roman Empire. Does Spengler view this transition as a natural evolution or a sign of decline?
He argues that the Roman Republic's expansion, fueled by its economic system and military successes, led to its inevitable transformation into an empire. This shift, however, marked the beginning of the polis's decline as the concept of a self-governing city-state was gradually eroded by centralized imperial power.
So in a way, the very success of the Roman Republic led to its transformation into something quite different.
A recurring theme in history. Success often breeds new challenges and transformations, leading to unforeseen consequences.
It seems that money played a crucial role in this process.
Absolutely. Money, as an instrument of power, can be both a catalyst for growth and an agent of change, often with unintended outcomes.
Let's shift our focus now to Spengler's characterization of Western civilization as Faustian. This concept of a civilization driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, power, and conquering the infinite is quite intriguing. What distinguishes the Faustian soul from his predecessors?
The Faustian soul, unlike its classical counterpart, is not content with the finite or the cyclical. It yearns for the infinite, the boundless, and this yearning manifests in a constant striving for progress and expansion.
So it's not simply about accumulating wealth or conquering territory, but about pushing the boundaries of knowledge and understanding.
Precisely. The Faustian spirit seeks to unravel the mysteries of the universe, to explore the unknown, and to continuously innovate and create.
Spengler points to the emergence of double-entry bookkeeping as a prime example of this Faustian drive. How does this seemingly mundane accounting practice reflect a deeper cultural impulse?
Double-entry bookkeeping, with its emphasis on abstract representation and precise calculation, reflects the Faustian desire to quantify and control even the most complex aspects of reality.
So it's not just about keeping track of money, but about imposing order and rationality on the world.
Exactly. The Faustian spirit seeks to make the intangible tangible, to capture the infinite within the finite framework of human understanding.
This drive for knowledge and mastery is certainly evident in the West's remarkable scientific and technological advancements.
And it's closely linked to another defining characteristic of the Faustian soul, its linear concept of time. Unlike the cyclical time of the classical world, where history was seen as a recurring pattern of rise and fall, the Faustian worldview embraces a linear, forward-marching concept of time, with a clear beginning, a present striving towards a future goal, and a sense of continuous progress.
This perspective on time seems to be at the heart of our modern obsession with progress and innovation.
Indeed. The Faustian soul is restless, always striving for something more, something beyond the present. This relentless pursuit of the infinite has led to incredible achievements, but also raises questions about the sustainability of this constant striving.
It's as if the Faustian spirit is perpetually engaged in a race against time, a race that may ultimately lead to its own exhaustion.
A concern that Spengler himself articulated in his predictions about the eventual decline of Western civilization. He believed that the Faustian drive, while a source of great creativity and dynamism, carries within it the seeds of its own demise.
This brings us to a crucial question. What does Spengler envision for the future of the West? Does he see complete collapse or a transformation of some kind?
Spengler suggests that the decline of the West is not necessarily synonymous with collapse, but rather with transformation into a new form. He speculates about the emergence of a second religiousness.
A return to spiritual values in a civilization increasingly defined by secularism and materialism. That's quite a bold prediction.
Spengler believed that the Faustian drive, with its relentless pursuit of the infinite, would eventually reach its limits, leading to a sense of disillusionment and a yearning for something beyond the material realm.
So this second religiousness wouldn't necessarily mean a return to traditional religious institutions or dogmas, but rather a resurgence of spiritual seeking and a quest for meaning.
Precisely. It's fascinating to consider this idea in light of current trends towards spirituality, mindfulness, and a search for purpose beyond material success. Perhaps Spengler's insights, though rooted in the early 20th century, still hold relevance for our contemporary world. But to fully grasp the implications of his ideas, we need to examine how these forces of social structures, political power, and economic systems have played out in other civilizations. Let's explore Spengler's analysis of the Magian culture, a civilization that offers a stark contrast to the Faustian West. The Magian culture, encompassing ancient Persia and its surrounding regions, emerged in a landscape vastly different from that of the West.
Okay.
A world of deserts and vast skies, where the sense of boundless space fostered a unique worldview.
So Spengler often connects a civilization's physical environment to its cultural and spiritual outlook.
Right.
How does this apply to the Magian culture?
He argues that the Magian soul, shaped by its environment, perceived the world as a cavern, a realm of darkness illuminated by a divine light. This stands in stark contrast to the Faustian drive to conquer the infinite.
So instead of seeking to expand outwards, the Magian culture focused on a more inward, spiritual understanding.
Precisely. This sense of a world shrouded in darkness led to a profound emphasis on dualism, the eternal struggle between light and darkness, good and evil.
And how did this dualistic worldview then manifest in their societal structures?
Well, their social structures, political systems, even artistic expressions reflected this fundamental tension between opposing forces. Think of Zoroastrianism, with its central conflict between Ahura Mazda, the god of light, and Angra Mainyu, the embodiment of darkness.
You mentioned earlier Spengler's concept of historical pseudomorphosis.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate on how this applies to the Magian culture?
Sure. Spengler uses pseudomorphosis to describe one culture adopting the outward forms of another without truly assimilating its inner spirit. He argues that the Magian culture coming into contact with the Roman Empire underwent a form of historical pseudomorphosis.
So they adopted elements of Roman law, administration, and even military organization. But these borrowed forms didn't quite fit their underlying cultural values.
Exactly. The Magian soul, with its deep-seated dualism and emphasis on spiritual revelation, struggled to reconcile itself with the rational, legalistic, and pragmatic worldview of the Romans.
So it sounds like a cultural clash.
Yeah.
Trying to merge two fundamentally different ways of seeing the world.
Indeed. Spengler, he provides the example of the basilica, a Roman architectural form adopted by early Christians in the Magian world. While the basilica served as a functional space for worship, its grand symmetrical design clashed with the Magian sense of a world shrouded in mystery and illuminated by divine light.
So the physical structure itself reflected this cultural tension.
Precisely. This tension between outward form and inner spirit played out in various aspects of Magian history, ultimately contributing to its unique trajectory. Now, circling back to the West, Spengler observes a fascinating tension between two fundamental human impulses.
Okay.
the desire for freedom, and the need for order.
That's a tension that has undoubtedly shaped much of Western political thought and action throughout history.
Indeed. Spengler argues that this tension lies at the heart of the conflict between the aristocracy and the bourgeoisie,
Okay.
between the nobility emphasizing tradition and hierarchy, and the rising middle class aspiring for individual liberty and economic power.
So this struggle isn't just merely about political or economic power, but reflects a deeper
Yes.
philosophical clash.
Precisely. The nobility, rooted in the land and embodying the spirit of blood and tradition, represents the force of order, a stabilizing element in a world of constant change.
Okay.
On the other hand, the bourgeoisie, driven by the spirit of enterprise and innovation, embodies the force of freedom, constantly pushing against the constraints of tradition and seeking new avenues for self-expression.
It seems that both forces are essential
Yes.
for a civilization to thrive.
Absolutely. Order without freedom can lead to stagnation and oppression,
Right.
while freedom without order can descend into chaos and anarchy. Spengler suggests that the West's unique dynamism stems from this constant interplay between these two opposing forces.
A delicate balance to maintain.
Indeed. And maintaining that balance is one of the key challenges facing any civilization.
Well, Spengler's insights into the interplay of social structures, political power, and economic systems, I think they provide a really compelling framework for understanding the complexities of history. His analysis of the classical, Magian, and Faustian cultures reveals how these forces shape a civilization's worldview, its values, and ultimately its destiny.
And his work challenges us to think critically about the forces that have shaped our own civilization and to consider the potential paths that lie ahead.
As we conclude this deep dive, I'm left with one final thought-provoking question. Spengler argued that the decline of a civilization is not necessarily a catastrophe, but rather a natural phase in a larger cycle of growth, maturation, and transformation. If he's correct, what does this mean for us living amidst the complexities and challenges of the Western world today? Does Spengler's perspective offer a glimmer of hope, a way of understanding our present moment not as an end, but as a transition, a prelude to something new? That's something for you to ponder as you continue to explore history and its profound implications for our lives. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the ideas of Oswald-Spengler.